2026, and the time is 6:30 p.m. Our mission is to provide a safe and caring climate and culture in which we engage, inspire, educate, prepare, and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. Heather, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
Thank you. And then when you're ready, can you please call roll?
The following board members are present at the District Administration Office. Scott Andresen.
Here.
Natalie Copeland.
Here.
Al Dahlgren. Oh, sorry. That's. I'm so sorry.
Autopilot.
I do. I just read. Sorry, Gina. One of those days. Gina Acevedo.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, Gina Acevedo.
Yeah, here.
Diana Fenton.
Here.
Shannon Haas.
Here.
Heather Weems. Here. The following board members, Zach will be here. Yes.
Later. Yep, we hope.
The following cabinet members and staff are present at the District Administration Office. Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, Dr. Jason Harris. Assistant Superintendent of E5 Learning, Nikki Hansen. Executive Director of Community Education and Community Partnerships, Shannon Avenson. Executive Director of Finance and Business Services, Amy Scalarud. Executive Director of Human Resources and General Counsel, Tracy Flambeau. Executive Director of Innovation and Technology Services, Katie Herbold. Executive Director of Operations, Matthew Boucher. Executive Director of Special Education, Danny Mayer. Media Technicians, Paul Novak and Gordy Scott. Custodian on site, Emerson Beamer.
Thank you. Then I need a motion to approve the Board of Education meeting and work session agenda.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion by Scott, a second by Natalie. Heather, can you call vote on that?
Gina Acevedo.
Yes.
Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
Diana Fenton.
Yes.
Scott Andresen.
Yes.
Shannon Haas.
Yes.
Heather Weems. Yes.
And then we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of non-controversial items the board adopts routinely without debate. Any single member may remove an item from the consent agenda by requesting removal at the time the consent agenda is moved for adoption. On tonight's consent agenda, item A, approval of personnel staff changes. Item B, approval of monthly financial report for November 2025. Item C, approval of monthly treasurer's report for November 2025. Item D, bid award to Lahi roof replacement. Item E, approval of proposed revised board policy 101, legal status of the school district statute formats only. Item F, approval of board policy 101.1, name of the school district, reviewed, no changes. And item G, approval of board policy 530, immunization requirements, reviewed, no changes. At this time, does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing no removal, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Scott, a second by Natalie. Heather, can you call vote on that?
Diana Fenton.
Yes.
Shannon Haas.
Yes.
Heather Weems. Yes. Scott Andresen.
Yes.
Natalie Copeland.
Yes.
Gina Acevedo.
All right, thank you. We have one information item tonight. We have the cybersecurity update presented by Katie Herbold, Executive Director of Innovation and Technology Services. Welcome, Katie.
Good evening, Chair Haas, Assistant Superintendent Harris, and members of the board. I'm just going to get my presentation up here. Dr. Putnam asked me to do a little bit of a review of our cybersecurity protocols, just to keep you informed on kind of what we're doing to keep our district safe cyber-wise. So when we talk about cybersecurity, we're talking about protecting our networks, our devices, and our data from unauthorized access. Recently, school districts have faced a lot of cybersecurity challenges, with ransomware attacks being up about 68% in recent years. When there is a breach, cost of dealing with it can exceed over $3 million, and that's not counting any operational disruption we have to our students and our staff, and then, of course, any damage that can come to our reputation. So when we think about our cybersecurity infrastructure, we think about our network systems as being the home for our student data and our staff records. I put a file cabinet on there because not that long ago, that's where it was kept. So all of our student data, all of our staff data would be in one of those cabinets with a little bitty lock on it, which was probably locked most of the time. So now with everything being in the cloud and being within our network and being digital, we moved to from a simple file cabinet to a more comprehensive security system. So one of the things I'm gonna do is I'm probably not going to give you, I'm definitely not going to give you our entire cybersecurity plan, because putting that in the public is not a very good practice. And I'm also going to not talk about specific programs or software that we use. One, because again, that's not great practice to share exactly what we're using. But two, those things tend to change over time. We change to different platforms, we change to different software. So I'll give you an idea about what those things are. Cybersecurity is new to me too in the last couple of years, and it's not something we all talk about a lot. So I'm going to compare a lot of our cybersecurity measures to how you might secure your home, to give you an idea about the things that we do and how we protect our data. So if you think about all of our data being like the most important things in your house, I'll tell you how we secure that data. So one of the first things that we did actually this year is and many of you were impacted by this, we did a password update. And if you think about our passwords are being like our first line of defense, which stops most of the threat when you have good passwords. So this summer, we increased our password complexity. We used to have a 9-character password that could have been known to more than just the user because it followed a similar pattern. Everybody's passwords were of a similar pattern. Well, now passwords are self-selected by our staff, and so those passwords are not kept in plain text anywhere and are not known. When a staff member needs help recovering their account or getting back into their account, they're going to create a new password. We're not giving them what their old password is. So we went from 9 characters to 12. If you look at that chart on there, a 9-character password can be hacked by a bad actor fairly quickly, whereas when you go to 12, you add complexity like uppercase, lowercase numbers, and symbols. We're looking at about 3 billion years to be hacked. So normal methods of just trying to test passwords and some of the programs that are done to do that, it's going to take a very long time. We also talked to staff about not using known things. The word password is a bad password to use. Not using children's names, pets' names, those types of things. And we're thinking more about passphrases that are longer and more complex when talking about passwords. Another thing is you don't want to make it too easy because that's like locking your door and then putting the key under the welcome mat. It's really easy to figure out, and it's easy then to get in. So we want to have more complex passwords. Another thing that we do to secure our data is we use multi-factor authentication, which is like that keypad if you have a security system in your house and you need to disarm it. Not only do you have to unlock your door, you have to go in then and hit the code on your keypad to prove that it's you and to get into your house without an alarm going off. So basically, multi-factor authentication helps you prove your identity when you're logging in. Ways our staff do this, they use their fingerprint. They could get a code sent to their cell phone, or they can answer security questions that only they know. So even if someone is able to steal your password, they can't get past that secondary code because they don't have your fingerprint, they don't have your phone, and they don't know what street you grew up on, or whatever, or your favorite color, whatever security question that you've used. The next thing that we do is we do simulated phishing, but that's phishing with a PH, and training, which I'm kind of making it like our neighborhood watch. So phishing is a form of social engineering where someone might masquerade as a legitimate and trustworthy entity and send you an email that would ask you to reveal sensitive information or could download malicious software to your computer. So we send staff these simulated phishing emails. They look, like they could be a phishing email. They have kind of all the hallmarks of them, and it tests their awareness and response. Now, we're not trying to be gotcha, but we are trying to provide training in the moment. So if a malicious or a simulated phishing email is clicked, they're going to instantly get training that pops up and tells them this is what the problem was, and this is how to deal with it moving forward, and reasons why you should not have clicked on this. Staff are also able to report any emails they think of that are phishing to our in our email system. There's a little squirrel icon that they can hit and report emails. If they report a simulated phishing email, they earn acorns, and there's a leaderboard. It's very exciting. Yeah, Amy's number 68 on the leaderboard. She's doing pretty well. So yeah, it's the leaderboard is a big deal, and people are like, what if I am reporting multiple emails, I'm getting more acorns? It does self-regulate over the week, so Amy, even if you report the same email 3 times, you're not going to get all the acorns.
Don't do that, that would be cheating.
Yeah, okay. And then when they're reporting malicious emails, that goes then into, or what they believe to be malicious emails, that goes into our system. Our IT team takes a look at those. If we deem it to be malicious, we can put it in kind of a quarantine for a while and just kind of take a look and see if more people report it, or we can immediately take it out of all inboxes that it might have been sent to and then block that email address from sending other things in. It makes our staff active defenders and creates more of a security awareness throughout our district. I do get a lot of comments about acorns when I'm walking through buildings. Like, people are real invested in finding those simulated phishing emails, to the point where like they're maybe reporting things that are definitely not phishing. Occasionally my emails, which is fun. The next thing that we have is called EDR, which is Endpoint Detection and Response. This is an application that's installed on all of our district devices. It's kind of like having motion sensors on your security system at home. It detects any alerts or suspicious behavior in real time, like malware, unauthorized access, and malicious links. It quarantines them on your device and then sends us an alert that suspicious activity has been detected. And it will also alert the user of the device as well. So that's endpoint detection. Now, associated with that, we have managed detection and response. So if your security system has 24/7 monitoring, like if your security system goes off and someone's going to call you and say, hey, are you okay? Or your security system's going off, that's what this is. So it's round-the-clock monitoring of our entire network by security experts, and they identify and respond to threats in real time. They also do a managed risk assessment where they scan possible vulnerabilities. They do this monthly, where they take a look at our software, hardware, any external information that we have on our website, and see if anything can be exploited, and then tell us what we need to do to go and patch or fix those. They will also be incident response, so if there ever is a cyber attack, they would help us rapidly contain, investigate, and remediate cyber attacks. They also provide digital forensics, threat actor negotiation, and system recovery. They will call at 4 a.m. if they have a high priority alert, which turned out to be nothing, by the way, but I can tell you they will call at 4 a.m., which is fun. But we know if something's happening. The next thing that we have that protects our student data are DPAs, or data protection agreements. These are like your trusted neighbors that you maybe when you go on vacation, you give them the key to your house to take a look, and you might work together to protect it during that time. So it's a contract between our district and a third-party service that governs the processing, storage, and protection of our student data. Our data is really only as secure as our weakest partner. So a DPA just ensures that they're obligated to maintain the same or better security standards than we have. So our DPA requires our third-party services to have multi-factor authentication, to have endpoint detection, and all of these other factors that we have that keep our data safe, them too, because they have access to it. So we want to make sure that they're keeping our data as safe as we are. Some other things that we're working on, kind of cybersecurity related, we're continually updating our cybersecurity response plan. We're assessing our infrastructure for gaps with our MDR partners. So our managed detection response partner, we're always looking for those gaps and security patches we can make and constantly making those. And then we're also working on a 3-phase AI deepfake response plan. And if you are unaware, an AI deepfake is when somebody may use AI to copy your voice, your face, or your likeness. And we talk about prevention and preparedness, how we're going to work with students and staff to prevent those, how we will respond to an incident, and how we can recover and review when one is done. So that plan is in the works, and you'll be able to see that when we're ready for it. Generally, we're just taking this multi-layered approach. We want to combine technology, training, and planning to protect our student data. We want to make sure we always are staying operational, and we want to make sure we're building and maintaining that trust from our community. So that is your cybersecurity update. Do you have any questions?
Anybody have any questions or comments? Scott?
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
Super cool.
Managed detection and response. These folks, are they watching our system 24/7?
Yeah, they are. These are the people. So one of the interesting things is we restrict logins for staff when they leave the country. And because this system is always monitoring like where people are logging into their school accounts from, like IP addresses. If they're logging in places that are considered normal, like around the area, but we get a notification when anything seems unusual. So if they're logging in from a place they don't normally log in from, or if they're trying to log in another country, we'll get a detection. And so somebody was on vacation, logged in from a country that's a high-risk country, because some countries just have more cybercrime than others, and they happen to try to log in from that country, which is why I got the 4 a.m. call, because it's a high risk. It turns out it was our staff member. They were not able to actually get into their account because we restrict that. So it was nothing, but yeah, it's 24/7. Any type of high-priority alert comes through, they're calling my cell phone. This is exciting.
Well, I was just thinking I might go on a vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if your security alarm is going off while you're on vacation, your security company is probably calling your cell phone saying, hey, is this you? Or do we need to send police? Do we need to respond?
Okay. This data protection agreement, that's the contract between us and this managed detection folks?
Yeah, and it's a little different than the contract. We often have a contract and a data protection agreement. The contract is written by the vendor and then signed by us, whereas the DPA is written by us, is our standards, and it's signed by them.
I didn't hear anything about backing up stuff. Do you tell me about backing up?
Yeah, we do require certain backups, and it depends on what the system is. Like we have backups of cameras, we have backups to our network, and those are for safekeeping. If something happens and we have to shut down or delete, we're able to then recover based on our backup. So most of our systems have those. Our data protection agreement talks about if we no longer do business with the vendor, when and how they have to dispose of their backups and of any information that they're keeping.
Okay. Is there some sort of relationship between what you do and the security systems in our buildings?
Yes, I do help manage those with Matthew Boucher there, but yes, I do help manage that system.
I know that if there's a fire or something like that, the word goes out one way or another.
Yep. Yeah, luckily I'm not on that call list. Matthew is. I'm on the, but I am on the I'm the number one on the cybersecurity call list.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Good job. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Even if you drive me nuts with your passwords.
So sorry, Scott.
Thanks for putting that together in a comparison way that I could wrap my head around it instead of just talking IT that goes right over my head. So
For
thank
sure.
you.
No problem.
All right, thanks, but you're not going anywhere, right?
I'm still here.
Okay. We are moving on to our discussion item. We have the Central Minnesota Virtual Academy, CMVA, update. Katie Herbold, Executive Director of Innovations and Technology Services, is staying, and joining her is Laura Fries, Apollo High School Assistant Principal and CMVA Administrator, and then also welcome Tyler Malotki, if I pronounced that right, CMVA School Counselor. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, good evening again, Chair Haas, Assistant Superintendent Harris, and members of the board. We are here to provide an update about Central Minnesota Virtual Academy, which you will occasionally hear us use the acronym CMVA, but we will try not to use that acronym a lot because we know it can be confused with other entities around the St. Cloud area. So we'll try to say Central Minnesota Virtual Academy as frequently as we can. So as you just announced, I'm here as the Executive Director of Innovation and Technology. I've been working with our online school since its inception 4 years ago and its initial year, which was 3 years ago, as a technology coach, then as a director, and now as an executive director. But I've been joined the past 2 years by the amazing person sitting next to me, Laura Fries, who has taken over as the CMVA administrator. And then we've been joined this year by, again, the amazing Tyler, who has become our full-time counselor for our students who are taking online classes, which has been just an absolute game changer for our kids who are participating in this program. So we are Central Minnesota Virtual Academy. We are District 742's online entity, online school. We serve students in grades 9 through 12. When we opened in school year 23-24, we served grades 6 through 12. We found that our middle school students were not successful with a way that we could provide support at an online school. So we now only serve high school. For the past 2 years, we've served only students in grades 9 through 12, with increasing number of students using Central Minnesota Virtual Academy to get their credits every single year.
Good evening. Just dive in a little bit deeper.
You gotta grab that microphone there, Tyler.
Oh, yeah. A little bit deeper into who our students are. Students come from Tech High School and Apollo High School, or are open enrolled. So just a few data points here to look at. This is just from December for trimester 2. There's 450 students taking at least one online class, which is a significant amount of students to manage between the tech counselors, the Apollo counselors, and myself, and then all the teachers and staff that support us. One thing to note, I think, is just the growth this year, just up 52% to 91 in trimester 2 from 60 in August when we kind of started tracking the data and noticing the growth. A lot of that is out of district transfers or open enrollment, which is positive from Rocori or Sartell, Sauk Rapids, Wilmer, other places in there, mostly in the central Minnesota area. We also support the part-time students. That would be students that have a blended schedule, like an in-person class at either Tech or Apollo, and then one online kind of over the top of them. Just Tech being a little bit bigger, their numbers are a little bit bigger. They have 238 students. Apollo students have 103. And then even ALC and McKinley utilize the online classes for their support and credit recovery too. So 18 of those kids.
So when you log on to or go to our website, the District 742 website, and then if you search up CMVA, families and staff will see this beautiful design that Tyler put together. And it's the 4 pathways that students can get to CMVA. The right-hand side or left-hand side, as you can see, is how our district students have our options to either be full-time. So they can be full-time. They work with their counselors to make sure that they're getting the classes they need to be on the path to graduation. And then they work with Tyler and myself to make sure there's room in those classes. Another option, as Tyler said, we have a lot of part-time kids. And further in our presentation, we'll talk about why that is or why they choose to be part-time. And our part-time kids, again, they go through their counselors, either at Tech or Apollo or McKinley. They work with Tyler and myself to make sure that it fits their schedule, if they're part-time, if they are meeting their graduation requirements as well. And then the out-of-district residents, this is our third year. So by state mandate, we have to offer CMVA, our Central Minnesota Virtual Academy classes as supplemental. So we had to kind of think differently about what that would look like if a student stays enrolled in Royalton, for example, but wants to take a class like 2D art or US history or something through our online academy. What would that look like? And so we created another option, and that's the last one, supplemental. If a student wants to take classes supplemental, the pathway is to reach out to me, contact me, because then I work with Tyler and we ask those questions about what classes do you need? What do you need to graduate? What are your hopes for being online? Are you wanting to graduate in your homeschool? Are you eventually wanting to go full-time here in St. Cloud? Just to kind of have that connection with family about how we can. And then, then we just go through the process. There's a little bit of paperwork if they do supplemental because of funding. And we haven't had anybody, we almost caught one kid to do it this year, and I was so excited. But then they found a different option. And then obviously, if they're non-residents or out of district, we open enroll them. So again, we're having that conversation with family first about what they're wanting for their student. And then we help the family with that process of, once we have your transcript, this is what we can offer through CMVA. If this is still a good choice for you and your family, then this is what we need you to do. And then between Tyler and I, we step them through the open enrollment process.
Just some numbers to highlight, but also just working with students, I think, is the highlight, just to know their stories and their families, what their goals for working in the future, what career they want, and who they are as a person has been a highlight for me. I think we wouldn't do this job without that. But I guess the goal of high school is to graduate, and that's a big number to focus on. We have 29 seniors full-time, and 92% of those kids that are full-time seniors, all their classes are online. They are on track to graduate, which is a big success so far.
Who chooses Central Minnesota Virtual Academy and why? We have a lot of PSEO students who are taking both classes at high school, so through Central Minnesota Virtual Academy as well as St. Cloud State or the technical college. So it's that flexibility that they like. For medical reasons, we've had some students need to take Central Minnesota Virtual Academy classes because they have to be at home and they can't be in school or around others. Mental health needs, workforce. So some of our students are choosing to have that flexibility that we offer through our online platform and be able to work more. Athletics, so we do, that's kind of new this year, is we have different athletes who are choosing to have a couple classes through Central Minnesota Virtual Academy because it gives them the freedom to be able to do their competitions and not have it interrupt their school day, and there's classes live and in person. Family obligations and flexibility. I mean, that's really the number one thing that we offer is that flexibility. Course highlights. So we offer all credits that a student can take to graduate. Our juniors this year, our 11th graders, are our first year students. So it's kind of cool to see them grow through the program. We offer multiple languages. We offer it, but not that we run the classes because there's not always the numbers that we need through the Central Minnesota Virtual Academy registration to run the numbers. But we do offer different languages. We have some electives such as art, music, and new this year we are offering food fundamentals. So that'll be new. That's pretty exciting. That's you.
Our students participate in their learning through our Schoology platform, and so you can kind of see what that looks like to the right. They are working asynchronously, meaning they're not in like a live video call, but they can participate in live sessions with their teachers during their teacher office hours. So they're able to log on to a video call through Google Meet with a teacher to get help or to work through any problems that they might have. They work through by week, so they are given a weekly folder in their Schoology course where they see what they need to accomplish for the week, and they're able to take a look at that as they need to, but they are required to log in and look every single day. The devices that our students use for learning are the Lenovo 500E Chromebooks. Some of our students who are full-time choose to use their own device, but we do offer a device to every student. If the student lives too far away, we will actually mail that device to them if needed. So all of our students are provided with the materials that they need in order to learn. Also, Laura has spearheaded this, but we do offer art classes, and we are sending out art supplies to students that take those art classes so that they have what they need to do their online projects. So while it is online, there are still lots of things that students are interacting with physically in order to do what they need to in their learning.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just piggyback off of what Katie said, and to bring it back to with our open enrolled students, Tyler does a fabulous job meeting with all those families. So what we try to do is if they are open enrolled, we get them on campus, we meet the family, we go through the CMVA expectations, make sure they can log into their computer, and then at that time, if there's any supplies that we can give them, we try to front load it with that. So we try to minimize how much we send out, but a lot of families have been pretty okay coming in and doing that meeting and getting what they need to make sure their students are successful. So on this slide is just a snapshot of a couple of our Central Minnesota Virtual Academy instructors. Brenda Sayers is our closest to full-time instructor. She is a 0.8, and here's just a snapshot of her daily schedule that you can see is really nicely laid out. So students at the beginning of the week know what needs to be accomplished by Friday and turned in. All those little things are clickable. And then on the other hand, on the right-hand side, you see our government teacher and his Schoology page with the learning objective. Oh, thanks. With the learning objective posted on the daily slide deck. There's a to-do list, a what to turn in, and then a video for the lesson.
No, you're fine. We track student attendance daily, and it's tracked via their interaction with Schoology. So we basically download a report of everything that's been touched, clicked, or logged into in Schoology for the entire district. We then use a formula to compare that to our students that are listed as our Central Minnesota Virtual Academy students. So every day we see if all of those students have been in Schoology and doing work. And so if they have been in Schoology and completing work, they are then marked present for the day. If they are marked absent, Tyler's been doing a great job. We have like a spreadsheet. We can see when students are starting to miss days consistently, and he's able to then follow up. They also could be subject to truancy, and they'll receive truancy letters if it gets to that point. I put that graph in there that's just December 15th, 16th, and 17th. And this is like every individual login. So we don't have 1,400 CMVA or Central Minnesota Virtual Academy students, but they've all logged in multiple times during the day. So you can see kind of where our groups have, or our students are participating, and it's been pretty consistent this year as far as like when they're logging in. And you can see our teachers on there too.
So different ways that we communicate with students and families. For me, I have been able to have a little bit more freedom to be consistent with a monthly family newsletter. So I'm trying to do the same type of communication they do at Apollo and at Tech and at McKinley. So I'm trying to make sure that our families are informed. I typically will send to both part-time and full-time CMVA families because in our system, they may be part-time, but the other part of their day is at PSEO. So we see them as part-time, so just to make sure everybody feels like they're in the loop with what's going on with Central Minnesota Virtual Academy, I send it to all the families. So if you know anybody, then you're only part-time, you're getting a letter too. So I apologize if you are getting bombarded with letters. Tyler is doing a fantastic job with communicating through office hours and Google Meets. So he has time set aside. I'm kind of speaking for you.
Sure, I can jump in.
Okay, you
think-
jump in.
Just the student support, students reach out either by Schoology, by phone, or by email. And then I have students meet with Google Meet occasionally as well, or in person in our office at Apollo. So just whatever kind of works best for their family and their situation. Some may not drive, and some may need a ride from a parent or guardian, to kind of choose which way works best to communicate.
When we've had concerns, we have done home visits of students who are showing their attendance isn't up to par, and, we're concerned that they're not interacting, so we have done home visits. And then we're able to do academic recognition. Tyler got a grant from a local organization that gave us some money. So then we're able to buy like things that you see here in these pictures. And so for academic recognition through PBIS, we honored students who passed all their classes by try one. We did the chair. The little video rocker, we were like, oh, they could do their CMVA in the chair. And then at the end of the trimester, students who are earning all their credits through CMVA, we drew a name, and then they got to choose which item they would like from that little display there. So.
You
Is
kick it
that
off.
both of us?
Yeah. I think, go ahead.
Online advisory. So again, we're trying to make sure that our online students are getting the same experience as our in-person students. So Tyler runs the online advisory / Eagle Time, Tiger Time. So we're sure our students are getting the same Zello lessons that our in-person students are getting, and we're having those conversations around life beyond high school. That's what our Zello is the platform for. And then our students also have the opportunity to come in person to participate in any clubs, activities, athletics through Tech or Apollo.
Yep, so I just put on the left graphics just activities and athletics that we offer through Tech and Apollo, and on the right is just a snapshot of like what I posted for Eagle Time.
Oh.
It's just following the daily lesson that they do in advisory. So like this week, we're talking about Zello and registration coming up.
Yeah.
And so they're getting
Big.
the same lesson as they would be in person.
So this is, so our outlooks and goals. We've increased in numbers just from last year to this year with my participation in CMVA. And so we anticipate we'll continue to grow. Future goals for us is to expand our offerings. We know that sometimes when we register and have courses with lower numbers that maybe at the beginning of like in the spring, it may look like we can't offer this class, but then by fall, it's like, oh dang, I wish we would have one more elective to offer. I'd really like to see a language run. I know we have them register for it, but we haven't gotten the numbers. So I think that would really help grow our program and pull in maybe more students who are open enrolled. And then just, continue to provide opportunities to build future skills and how to work independently online.
For questions.
Scott?
Why are there more part-time students at Tech than Apollo?
That's a good question.
Well, enrollment at Tech is greater than Apollo, so there are more students at Tech to draw from. And it's just, for whatever reason, students at Tech were more interested in doing the online classes or part-time online classes. And you also have to think about how Tech is set up. Tech is perfectly set up for a student who is a little more flexible. because there are spaces built in for students to have a gap in their day and be able to participate in online classes. Apollo will be well set up for this in the next couple of years. So I think we're going to see more growth at Apollo, but we're already seeing more growth at Apollo. And part of that is because we have Ms. Fries and Mr. Malaki there as well that physically they're helping students that are part-time at Apollo.
Okay. Open enrollment, are we in competition with a homeschool district someplace, like a Royalton or whatever? I mean, can you be enrolled in two different school districts at the same time?
Yeah, so you're able to, like Laura was talking about earlier, able to enroll supplementally. So I wouldn't say there's competition. We're not out there trying to take students from other schools. But for example, we offer the Ojibwe language, and we offered it this year. If there was a student in another district who wants to take that, it's not offered in their district. We can come to an agreement with their home district where they actually take that course from us while maintaining their enrollment in their home district. They fill out a form. We share the money that comes in for the student. We share it based on how many credits they take with us.
Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting with more than one district, how you break out the money, because it's by student enrollment.
Yep.
And so would you look at like maybe 2 classes there and 3 classes here or something like that? And
It
divide
depends on what the
60,
student,
40,
yeah,
or,
depends on what the student wants, and we can do anything. The state of Minnesota has a formula that helps us calculate that, depending on how many courses they're taking, how many credits they have.
okay. Acronyms.
We love them.
PSCO, what is that?
Post-secondary education opportunities or options. Options. So
So-
they're able to go to St. Cloud Technical College or St. Cloud State and earn credits as a high school student at those 2 universities. They like our online school because previously they would have to like take just morning classes at St. Cloud State or SCTCC and then come on campus in the afternoon to finish their high school requirements. Now, like when they take classes is very variable. They can take them throughout the day at SCTCC and still get those high school requirements to graduate. So then they don't have to come back onto campus to finish those credits. They can stay at the university or at the technical college if they choose to. Many still choose to come back onto campus to finish their classes.
Okay, so they have some options.
Yep, they have options.
I think I knew a person that graduated from community college and high school the same week.
Yep.
And worked full-time. It was amazing.
A lot of our students do work full-time and participate in online classes.
PBIS,
I'll let you do that one.
PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention Systems. So PBIS is our platform for recognizing following school-wide expectations. It also engulfs our MTSS, another acronym, our multi-tiered system of support. So when we have a student who's not maybe academically achieving at the tier 1 level through curriculum instructions, just, kind of how we go about our day, then they go to the tier 2 level. And so that just tells us that's where MTSS comes into play and says, okay, maybe there's some other interventions that we need to do for this student to wrap supports around him. So PBIS is the overall umbrella that just helps that system, behavior, academics, and make sure kids are successful in both levels.
I can sort of understand that in a physical layout where you have a building and structure and all that. It's a little concerning is how to do it with the video layout.
Yeah, so we're starting really small with just Tyler and I recognizing academic achievement. So if you're earning all your credits, so you're achieving at that tier 2 or tier 1 level, so we're going to recognize you for that. How we venture that out into the digital level, like for example, Brenda Sires, how does she use PBIS from a Schoology platform? those are conversations I'm excited to have with the instructors to see how they feel that they could embrace PBIS from a lens of online learning. Yep.
You could use it as a reward system through years video, but in person, they also use it as sort of a disciplinary system.
It's recognition for following school at expectations. Yep.
But I suppose you don't have disciplinary problems on video.
No. Oh, you mean like through, I'm thinking Apollo, through Central Minnesota Virtual Academy? You know, it's not really. No, we've got, once in a while, there'll be a Schoology message that maybe needs some attention because the student's not maybe saying it so nicely. But I've had great conversations with families, and it's really hasn't been a concern. I think where we would maybe move next is attendance, like recognizing kids who are logging in every day and engaging in their lessons.
Okay.
I think we included the CNVA or Central Minnesota Virtual Academy students in the PBIS pizza giveaways this fall. They got free pizzas for similar to the in-person
For
schools.
attendance.
For attendance.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see how you would do it as a reward.
Yep.
But a disciplinary, hopefully you don't have the problem. Thank you.
I have a number of questions. Do you track any demographic information as to who is enrolled? And are you seeing any trends? And the reason I'm asking, as we become more digital, as the world changes, particularly with young boys, we are seeing a higher and higher level of antisocial behavior almost. Are you seeing any sort of difference between male, female demographics, racial demographics, those cultural demographics about who is enrolling and who is not?
I can answer that. Yeah, I don't think there's a strong indication of female versus male or non-binary student that's enrolling. I think it's probably a very specific need or niche or student-driven decision rather than more demographically driven, I'd say.
And I would just
That's a hard question.
encourage that you watch that, because I think that the research that we're seeing in terms of just behaviors in the world that we live in would mean that we should be paying attention to that.
Heather, I got a little more information for you. I haven't looked this year, but last year we were very close, 50-50 female male, and our demographics very closely match a school like McKinley ALC. We look at our cultural demographics and our age range and all that stuff. Very similar to that school. But I haven't looked this year, so I can get you that information though if you'd like to see it.
Access-wise, at least during COVID, I know that there were certain families who really struggled because of network access or fiber or whatever. Is there an opportunity, or do you have a pathway for students who maybe don't have the same level of access to get involved with the program?
Yeah, for sure. We have a certain number of hotspots that our district has that we will check out to students. And the best part about those is they automatically connect to our Chromebooks. So there's very little like troubleshooting needing to be done. Basically, if the hotspot's on and the Chromebook is on, it will connect. So that takes away a lot of the barriers that some of those students have. And again, if a student is far away and needs it, we'll ship it to them.
Have you had any students who you've directed based upon success, so from a counseling or an administrator perspective, maybe you're not seeing success on this platform and you've actually said, maybe we should have conversation about getting back into the classroom, and how do those conversations go?
You start.
Yes is the answer.
Yes, we have those conversations. A nice compromise is for families and students, because sometimes the students are the ones that are making those decisions, is to ask them to come part-time. We work as a team to really lay out like where you're at credit-wise, what it looks like over the next couple years. what's your favorite class? Well, why don't you do that online? Because if it's your favorite class, you're going to engage. What class do you feel like you need the most support in? Let's put you in a class in the morning or afternoon. We try to be really flexible to try to get them the support they need. And yeah, offering it part-time, I think is a nice compromise. We did have one student who was going to drop out, and she was full-time CMVA, and we called her and her family, and because she wasn't being successful, and she was just going to be done, and we're like, well, let's work with you. Tyler worked his magic, and she did end up staying on. We cut back a class because, we cut back a class, and we worked with her, and she's scraping along, but she's still in school, she's still enrolled. We're hoping that maybe she'll have a little spark of, okay, this isn't so bad, and then we can scoop her up and get her the support she needs to graduate on time or close to it. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, and then to add to the part-time, coming on more classes or less classes too, would also be the transferring back to like ALC McKinley. So we've seen students that are full-time not be successful and have those conversations with parents and kids, either by phone call or in the office, and move them to ALC. I mean, the tech counselors and Apollo counselors do a great job of doing that as well. So I'm just another system part of that. If they are full-time, then I can help them move back to, that happened today actually. We were talking with the student and family about moving back to in-person. So is that the best decision for the student? Where are they going to be most successful? Where does the history show from data or grades? What would be best and how is it going? And then usually the family and student can kind of help come to the same conclusion that we're suggesting.
And we have used conference time, like fall conferences. We use that to call families because our families through CMVA they don't come in. And even though they're full-time and maybe are in the tech attendance, I've communicated with them, this is when we'll do our conferences, this is when we'll give you a call. We have conferences coming up next week, so we're already planning like what families should we call and just say, hey, how's it going? Want to come in and visit? So it's on our radar for sure.
Which leads a little bit to my next question. We know that schools provide a lot of wraparound services. We know that schools are a place where particularly mental health, and I think at all ages, but certainly in high school as well, the observations that teachers or counselors provide in person about mental health or about abuse or about any number of things. It's one thing to observe and see that in person. What are you seeing, and how do you connect with students when they're not visible that way, and it's because they're not even online in a visual sort of place, it's easy to be lost or not to notice those sorts of things. Do you have any thoughts or any comments about how your teachers are trained or how they think about it?
I'll start on this one, and that is where I want to give a huge compliment to Tyler on this. Teachers are making physical observations. Tyler is using every point of data that he has, from attendance to grades to messages he's seeing in Schoology to talking with teachers to see if students are coming to office hours, if they are communicating. So it's different data points. It maybe isn't like a physical viewing of that student, but he's using all that information to see who's at risk and starting to have those conversations with those students. But I'm going to let Laura and Tyler speak to that more because they're doing it every single day.
I mean, teachers could refer a student based on a comment or something they write in a paper, a note that they receive an email and Schoology message, or something that they turn in. So then that gives us a direction to head or a contact point or a proactive approach to reach out. Encourage them to be involved and be heard and be seen. Having a phone call or email or somebody checking in with them often just helps them be a part of the school system in general. And I think when we're onboarding too, we're trying to highlight those things to include them. And so they're not, because that is a big risk that they feel isolated. but we come in whenever you want, call whenever you want, kind of thing, open door policy.
And partnering with the family, just to be there to support them if they are seeing things or need support, connecting them to community resources if we can, or connecting them in different ways. Because even though they're CMVA, they can have access to the mental health advocate at Apollo, obviously Tyler and other resources that we have at Apollo too.
Yeah.
Last question, and this one's probably an easy one. Graduation-wise, for those who are full-time, will they participate in the ceremony with their,
Homeschool.
yes,
As of right now, that is the plan. That would be the plan. Moving forward, if we have conversations with the students, I'm curious what this group of juniors who will be seniors, what their desire is. Like, do they see themselves as an Apollo student or as a Tech student or as a McKinley student? Because that's where they were in 10th grade and now they're full-time CMVA. I'm not sure. I'm hopeful to kind of have a conversation around that and see where that goes. As of right now, there are very strong feelings that they want to graduate with Apollo or they want to graduate with Tech, but we haven't had that group yet. So we have had conversations about what that'll look like.
Natalie, before we jump to you, can I just announce for the record so we can mark Zach Dorholt here at 7:20 PM. And Zach, thanks for making it in.
First of all, Laura, I just want to say thanks for saying I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the times we don't necessarily hear that from that side of the table, and I really appreciate that you're student-centered in that, so thanks for that. I'm just wondering, since we've done it for 3 years, this is our third year?
Yep.
Okay. What are the things maybe from two perspectives, admin and teachers and then students, that, you thought, what you guys thought, like going in, oh yeah, this is what it's going to be like. What surprised you, either pro or con? And then for students, when they come in, they probably have some idea, right, of how it's going to be. And then what has surprised the students as well?
From a student perspective, I mean, I've had conversations with students this year specifically. Last year, I was a little bit of a newbie, so I'm a little bit like, okay, how do I navigate this on top of doing my full-time in-person job?
Yeah.
And how, I just want to make sure everybody gets what they need. Students have responded to me that they're part-time, try one. They love it. They figured out independence. They know what they need to do as a student. Can I please be full-time? Try two. So those students are finding their way. Other students are like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do Central Minnesota Virtual Academy. I don't want to be in person. Okay, so we give you this schedule, and then a weekend said, I don't want to be at home. I don't get to see my friends. I want to come back in person. Okay, so I mean, it's kind of all over the place. I've gotten, for the most part, a lot of our upperclassmen absolutely love the flexibility because it pairs well with working, it pairs well with the college classes that they're taking, and they are very appreciative. Some of our upperclassmen too come into situations with family that they have to be responsible for. And they are very grateful when they know they have the opportunity to graduate on time, get the same classes, get the same information, but do it from a platform that has that flexibility. I guess that's what I would say. Our younger kids don't say too much. It's the upperclassmen that are a little more willing to talk.
I can talk a little bit about teachers. So when I was an innovation coach, I was onboarding all of our online teachers that very first year. And I think what surprised teachers was, I think some went into it thinking, I'll just put what I do in person online, and that's how we'll run class. But very quickly, our teachers that are teaching online have found really, really interesting ways to get students to interact and to get to know students that they never actually see in person. there's some really cool things that go on there, and then finding ways to assess learning in a way that's, valid. It's not all multiple choice testing, ways students can do hands-on projects while not in a physical school environment. I think some of those things surprised me about, I knew our teachers were really, really good, but I am always surprised about when I talk to teachers who are doing these online classes, some of the things like, hey, I figured out a way to do, to look at the cardiovascular system, and do a lab online with a science teacher. I mean, they're really like innovative in that way, and have found lots of different ways to connect with their students like that.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll say is Milo, who's in 11th grade, thinking about PSEO next year. I think that's one of the things that's lessened the anxiety around that is, hey, if I need to take something, I can just take it through CMBA. And also she can still come back for the last hour for band and choir. It's really, I think, really empowering for students. So thanks for your work on this.
Okay, anybody else? Thanks for joining us tonight. Fantastic numbers reporting, so thank you for all your great work. Okay, one more discussion item tonight. We have the generative AI update by Donna Roper, a Director of Research, Assessment, and AI Integration. Welcome, Donna.
Good evening, Chair Haas, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Harris, board members, colleagues, and listening community. Thank you for having me once again this evening to present. Tonight, I'm here to just share a short update on, I think I'm here to share an update if I can get this going. On how we have been integrating the wise and strategic use of AI into our classrooms. And let's just see if this is going to work for me. Yay, okay. So just for a little history, everybody is aware, except for maybe our new board member doesn't know all of this, but this is the third year of our work in trying to move some AI, artificial intelligence integration work into our classrooms and into our district. And it's on the heels of 2 annual AI summits that are focused on learning and education in the age of AI. So it's really, I want to stress it's not necessarily about AI, the technology, as much as it is about learning and education in the age of AI. And so for tonight, my goal is really to share what we've done so far this year, what we're learning, what's next, and part of that is so that our staff have clarity, so that our students stay protected as learners, and so that we keep improving with this piece responsibly. And again, the guidance and the responsible use, we're not trying to hype things, and we also are making sure that we're not responding and reacting out of fear. We're trying to build shared expectations and common language. And so the arc of that work for the current year, you can see here what we started with in August, our leadership learning. Of course, we always ground our year in the beginning of the year with some of that. And then in December, we just finished up some professional learning that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then where we're going in June. And just to ground us in what we focused our leadership learning on in August, it was on the research that addresses learning and productive struggle in particular. And we intentionally chose the learning around that because we know that our educators are Many are trained in the competencies of how we learn, or we call it the cognitive sciences. Most of our teacher prep programs include a little bit of learning around that. And so in the fall, when we met with building leadership teams, we emphasized and we actually practiced a little bit of understanding what learning looks like as it relates to things like memory and information processing, attention and engagement, motivation and mindset, metacognition, and like self-regulation. And we launched that work intentionally with building leadership teams so that as we go into integrating these tools, we're very cognizant of how we can use it wisely and strategically. Because again, the use of it is very nuanced and very situational. So it requires all of our educators to be really conscientious of what learning is actually happening, what tasks are actually being done. And that kind of anchored us in this really one essential question, which is, does this AI use support or bypass the essential mental work that fuels learning? And so we gave examples of what supporting it looks like. We gave examples of what bypassing it might look like. We practiced. And the whole idea really is because as professional educators in this work, we are the protectors of learning, right? We care deeply about not shortcutting student learning and ensuring that we are accelerating, if you will, opportunities to learn and just understanding in general. Our focus this year, just again, I would say kind of is in 3 bucket areas for right now, which one is really around, because we don't have solid policy, we have guidelines, right? So it's really bringing as much clarity as we can through guidelines and responsible use to our educators in the buildings, in the classrooms, right? And so we built out a responsible AI use expectation framework that follows our strategic plan foundational pillars. So if you think of safety, belonging, collaboration, and academic excellence, we used those, and we used the 4 cognitive pillars, which you just heard me speak to, which centers this responsible use on learning and our foundational sort of pedagogical foundation of safety, belonging, collaboration, and academic excellence. I know this is a lot that I'm saying, and I've got a lot of links in the presentation that go to some of these frameworks. I'm not going to go through each of them, but I encourage you to take a look at them. And if you have any questions, feel free, reach out. But these are documents that are resources that are out there that our classroom teachers, our principals have access to. Another framework was the Human AI Human framework, which is an inquiry tool that we asked people to kind of look at when they're redesigning assessment. And it's sort of a decision-making framework, and it's not going to come up. I'm clicking on it, it's not popping up. So we'll just let you guys take a look at that if you want. But the whole idea is to support our teachers with ways to understand how best to use AI when they're in the midst of learning tasks. And again, we have some additional assessment using AI for assessment in our classrooms. We're grounding our tools in the research that comes from Leon Furs, who has been doing just a ton of research. It's really well thought out, along with another protocol that asks 4 key questions about using AI wisely. And so I won't go through all of those, but just so that you know, we are trying to provide guidance, and then I'm going to share with you what we're hearing in terms of feedback from our teachers around that. Because the next bucket is really around professional learning. And so as you know, we provided a learning day on December 5th with our educators. This was an e-learning day. It was professional learning, and it was the Changemaker Hub. And I want to just call out, we had 24, and actually I think I miscounted. I think it's 25 District 742 teachers who actually led sessions. And I would love to read all of their names and all the sessions that they did, but there's a lot there, so I linked them. But these folks are just brilliant leaders who took time and were courageous enough to step out into this space of leading learning that is relatively new and novel. And so I just really want to commend them for taking that risk. And I think they got a lot of positive feedback. Many staff who attended felt that the learning that they received on that day, the best learning actually came from their peers. And so kudos to those folks who actually stepped up and led that learning. We had, on that day, we had choice breakouts. We had a Changemaker Hub that was centering the learning for the day, and we're going to talk more about that next meeting about the Changemaker Hub. But all of it was focused on AI assessment and really just engaging our students in the learning process. And then finally, the other focus I would say that has been big for us this year is just we are not alone in this work, right? So how we are engaging with others across the state through the Minnesota Generative AI Alliance for Education Group, in working with national collaborators, with our MSBA partners. We have strategic St. Cloud community and cross-sector leaders that we're working with. EdSafe and COSIN are providing us many technical and really great training, free training resources available to our staff. So this is work that is really necessary for us to do fierce collaboration around, because there's so much happening so quickly, and it's just really hard to keep abreast of everything. So that is another focus for our district, is just doing that really intentional outside as well as internal collaboration. I do also want to say that we had board member Fenton was one of our presenters. We had higher ed folks from the community come in and help us on that day, and we had a number of the Mid-Gaia folks come in and help us on that professional learning day as well. And so here's some of the feedback that we got. I think we want to center what we do next based on the feedback that we are getting around these opportunities. Teachers told us what made it work. They really liked the choice format. They really loved learning from their colleagues, and that we had kind of shared themes running. They loved the idea of getting student voice into the space, whether it was through the Changemaker Hub or some of them were, engaging with kids just around AI generally. And then what made it challenging was really we probably need to not hold large learning sessions in our gymnasium, because that was a lot of really poignant feedback about the actual setting. And then some folks felt like they didn't get into the sessions that were really relevant to them, or maybe we didn't have enough for our special education staff perhaps, or other staff who maybe are sort of niche. And then there was also kind of a large voice of, please don't do this on an e-learning day. So I want to acknowledge the feedback from our teachers, because it's real, it's their experience. And so our goal is going forward is to take this feedback and build on it. And I can tell you that I was in a meeting this morning where our team that is getting ready to set up the January 20th Choices Day has leaned into this feedback nicely. They have reorganized. We have made some major changes to the registration process. We will hopefully, take care of some of the things that didn't go very well logistically. And we will also be offering sessions for staff who said that they want time to apply all this new learning. So on January 20th, we'll have time for some application from what was learned on December 5th. So that's really exciting. And again, these are the names and the sessions. I won't read them all, but you can see some of the really cool session titles and just how creative and brave everybody was to offer up these opportunities to their staff. So there's another full page there. And so really, really good stuff. And again, just want to call out all of our teachers. I want to make a special note of to Kate Klug, a special thanks to her for all her hard work on making sure that this day kind of pulled off. And she did a lot of work. I really appreciate what she helped put together. So again, and this is just saying that the teachers' feedback is really driving what we're doing going forward. They, again, keep doing the choice breakouts, continue to improve the logistics. And I'm not going to go through all of this. I already said most of this. The one piece that I feel like we do need to tackle, and that's going to take us a little bit more intention and time, is getting after the policy piece. I think we have staff who are feeling ready for some clarity, and some of that might involve a little bit tighter policy or practice, guidance, if you will. And what we're hearing in some spaces is that guidance may not be enough. So for example, when it comes to AI use in the classroom, we have a sort of a traffic light model that we're using. And the experience for the learner is really diverse from one class to another. And so what we're hearing is feedback that they're saying, we need clarity on these kinds of things. So as we move through the rest of this year and into next year, one of the big focus areas, at least for me, will be on making sure that as a system, we can provide as much clarity as possible, whether it's through a policy or stronger guidelines, something to just give people that, like, I'm certain I know what to do in this situation. And then the evidence of impact from the work is really exciting. And these are just a couple of examples, but there's so many more. And one of them that you may know was recently spotlighted with our tech group, the morning show group, who did a video, "We Need You Here," addressing mental health using AI. It was fantastic. If you haven't seen that, I highly encourage you to look at it. But here's also a couple more examples. And again, like I said, these are just not even touching everything that's happening out there. And so one of the other pieces we would like to start doing is gathering evidence of impact and spotlighting sort of practitioners that are doing some really unique, creative, and engaging things. What we have going forward that we're looking forward to is we have some learning opportunities coming our way. We are going to be hosting a third annual Thought Leaders Summit here in St. Cloud at Apollo High School on June 15th and 16th. We are hosting, our hope is to host a second Changemaker Hub. The first one went really well. People really, really liked it. We are committed to doing it. It is a fantastic way to gather data and learn. And then we do feel like the role that we are playing in St. Cloud around statewide leadership is something that we should celebrate. It is something that I think we're being recognized for, and that's a good thing. And so going forward, again, just to really work on strengthening clarity for our staff around AI use. Looking at our policies is another area that we want to start venturing into in January. At the end of January, I'm told that MSBA will be sharing an AI policy. And so it is on the horizon, and it'll be here, and we will be working through it. And then just the data privacy piece. So there's really three things that popped in the feedback, which data privacy was one of them, student data privacy. Verification literacy, which is how do I evaluate the output of AI, was another one. And the third one was around transparency and just the clarity, like what does everybody do, what do some people not do, things like that. So there will be, I think, we will shoot for having much more clarity in the fall of next year. And again, doing this iterative continuous improvement work allows us to responsibly, make improvements. again, I think I said all of these things. The Changemaker Hub, we're looking at doing one more, professional learning, and then the fourth area is really around measurement, and I put that in here because two pieces of feedback I got from teachers that I talked with personally, and they were very strongly recommended, and they have a lot of merit to them. And it was that, don't show me or don't tell me that that using the AI tool will save me time. Show me, right? And the second was, show me how it improves learning. And so the only way that we're going to get there is we're going to have to measure, right? We're going to have to find ways to really understand how this is helping and improving learning. So I'm committed to looking at ways of doing that. I have some ideas. We are lucky because we are connected to a new classroom assessment, a national classroom assessment committee, and they are strongly interested in classroom assessment learning and how we look at things like initial knowledge, rate of learning, opportunities to learn. And these are all levers for improving outcomes. And so I will just share with you that those are things that we are looking to do going forward. That concludes my update for the mid-year generative AI info report. I'll take any questions.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Natalie? And then Heather?
Thank you, Donna. A couple things. I don't know if I had $1 for every time I read AI can perpetuate and amplify existing biases, I'd have at least $10. But it's just, and that's a lot of money. But I believe that. But if someone said, how does it do that? I don't know. So can you give us like a high level of that?
Well, if you think about how these large language models are built, right? I mean, they're just language. They are language that we humans produce. Mm-hmm. So as much bias as we have in our language is in every tool. And you're right in the sense that, so it's really great that you asked that question because one of our featured speakers for the day was specifically trying to address that very thing. Mm-hmm. Because our resistance to using AI, there's a lot of resistance to it for that very reason. Mm-hmm. And what I have come to understand in my own learning as I've tinkered and played with the various AI tools is that it requires some more sophisticated prompting to get past that.
Right.
Right? So yes, it can amplify bias and it can uncover blind spots, right? So it,
both and.
Yeah,
right.
It requires us to just grow in our own learning and be open, and then I'll also be willing to say what am I missing? How could I be wrong? What's my blind spot? What about this? Well, think of this from someone else's perspective, and now we can tell the system or the tool to bring back output. Now, you might say, well, how can we evaluate that? But I would say that's the beauty of the human brain, right? Is that as we become good readers, and so we still need to read, folks, right? We still need to be literate in reading and math and those foundational skills. But our capacity to make sense, the sense-making part, that's the brilliance of the human brain.
Yeah, we can't turn it off just because some entity is willing to do the thinking for us. Thank you. Two more things. One, I want to say about the tech video about mental health. Being a musician and a former music teacher, I'm like, never use AI for music. It's so, intricate to humans. And, but it kind of broadened my horizons a little bit and my bias against AI using for music because my understanding is that they wrote the lyrics. but then they were able to have it, put to something that really made the video so much better because it was basically hip hop rap, that was put to the lyrics that they had. So I still struggle with it, but I'm like, okay, I'll allow that. It's like, and that's the way I see, and you and I have talked about my kids and how they really struggle with AI. And definitely from a let's have a world, when we're 80 perspective, but also just from a human-centered standpoint. So I'm glad that we're in the struggle, I think is what I want to say. And my last question is, one thing I read in here was about detecting AI cheating. I know that's definitely a thing that we're concerned about. So like in high school, it was like you read the Cliff Notes when I was in high school, and then teachers could tell you didn't really, or you watched the movie instead of read the book. But like, what are the hallmarks of AI cheating that you see maybe in like a high school classroom?
That is such a good question. And it's hard for me to answer because I'm not in a high school classroom. I don't know if anyone here would be able to actually answer that better than me. I mean, I can give some idea, but, so, and what I love about is it Jennison that offered the detecting AI cheating? When I saw that class, I thought, oh boy, what is this going to be? Actually, it's really good. And I think teachers, come at it from the frame of like not wanting to harm learning, right? So it's an authentic, they want to detect whether or not kids are doing the work. And so why would we want kids to do the mental work? Why do we want to walk a block instead of drive the block, right? Like we need the exercise and it's the same thing with mental fitness. Teachers want kids to do the work because they're trying to grow the muscle, right? And again, that's a little bit why the whole productive struggle and understanding the 4 cognitive pillars and how things stick, why it requires repetition or different things like that. So, really it comes down to, if I'm being honest, AI literacy with our young kids and our learners, so they understand when you do this, you deprive your brain of the opportunity to learn something, right? So I think the way we're going to get through this is by really teaching our kids about how their brain works and why the learning is important, right? But I don't know if anyone else would have a better answer of like, or if that even answers your question.
No, I think I was just like what are the top 3 things that our teachers are seeing? Maybe Jason could answer it, I don't know. This is the struggle of AI in the modern classroom in 2026.
Yeah, I think Donna hit it. I'm going to cheat the process.
Yeah.
If I got to write the essay, I'm going to put it into ChatGPT
Right.
and let him or her or
Them, whatever.
them, the tool, write the essay. Correct? Teachers understand this now. And so they're having the discussions with the student. Walk me through the process, how you wrote that essay. Tell me how the first paragraph, the second paragraph, right? And so they're getting into, you can't cheat the system. I'm going to get to you fundamentally to see how you know how to write that essay, right? We've learned, I talked to teachers, okay, well, let's use math. This is the problem. How'd you get there? Walk me through the steps, right? To Donna's point in the fundamental ways of learning, right? And so as we help our learners, we're student-centered, you want to show how learning occurs to them, and they need to fundamentally know how to do those things. And the teachers are having the honest conversations, right? You can try to use the tool to get by all these things, but now we're looking at different ways. Put it in a video or, just some different ways. And I think our CMBA teachers have really learned, to Katie's point earlier, in a faster way to be more innovative and creative of what they're doing and how they're looking at the learning and assessing it.
Yeah, that's really helpful because it's the conversations you have after the fact that aren't just shaming a kid, but helping them understand, oh, why did this happen? In fact, in one of my kids' college classes at U of M. But the first thing that the teacher did was say, I'm going to show you the websites I'm going to use to know whether this is AI written or you wrote it. So they're like, I'm just going to show my work to you right now and don't do this. So, yeah.
And it's out there, right? And the same thing is our teachers, and they're sitting down and they're having the conversation. And I'll use math again. If I don't work through those steps of the process and I just show up in class, you do have some students could just show up and they're intelligent enough to have it, but that's very rare. And so teachers are having the conversations that you have to put in the work and how learning occurs around it and the fundamental skills.
So you're saying it's still about relationships?
All about
Wow,
relationships,
amazing.
the human connection, right?
Yeah,
AI
yeah.
can't teach you the human connection to really get to know you, your skills, and build that relationship.
Thank you, Jason, and thanks, Donna.
I don't know that I have much to add. This last part of the conversation is probably what I struggle. I struggle with AI, and I say that telling you that in my own profession, I have learned to use it in a way that saves me hours and hours of time. But it's much like, like when I talk to my boys, I talk about, I'm not a digital native. I existed before this thing existed, so I know what the before was. And throughout, all of time, technology has done that. Whatever it is, there's always a generation that existed before whatever it is. But the information age is a whole different thing. And that's what I try and think about from the fundamental perspective. And I'll say your point about students needing to understand the process of learning, and that's, I think, straight on, but how hard is that to teach them? So like when I use AI and I can see what it can provide for me, and what I agree to the bias point a little bit is what I input, the better the information I input, the better the output is. But the reason I can input some things is in some cases I know the right questions to ask it, and I just keep asking and asking and asking and asking. If you don't have that understanding, or if you don't know what an essay should look like, or how you're going to frame your own thoughts around it, yeah, you can have ChatGPT will write whatever, and it'll write it better and it'll know more. I mean, in some ways, like contracts, I love using it. I don't know how to write a contract, but wow, it can give me some good templates. But I'm just that process of learning, and because our learners now are digital natives, they don't know a before and an after. And I think that in the world in which we live, in which we're seeing critical thinking, in my opinion, in a lot of places declining, and we don't know how to evaluate what we read and what we see, myself included, like trying to figure out what I read on various channels, what's true and what's not, and how fast it gets out there, and the algorithms that repeat it, and then make me believe it. Like, there is a discipline that we have to have, and I think that's going to be the challenge. And so most of what I'll say is I appreciate that you're leading the conversation, because I'm a little bit concerned that the conversation in this country isn't being led at a high enough level, given the urgency and how quickly things are changing. And that's really scary to me. The last thing I'll just mention, and this has really nothing to do in this conversation, but I'm going to say it anyway. When you have your Thought Leaders Summit in this summer, I hope that as thought leaders, there's also conversation about responsible use extending to AI infrastructure, including the building, the water use, all of those things, because sometimes in our world we forget that just because we can doesn't mean we should. And I think that that's all part of responsible humanity. But thank you for your work, because it's it's an elephant, and one bite at a time is the only way. I'm concerned that we're not going to be able to eat the elephant fast enough.
Anybody else? Gina? And then Zach?
Well, thank you so much for that presentation and filling me in. I want to say that I really appreciate the way you framed this when you first started, in that you said this is how we're using AI as a support for learning and not a bypass for learning. And I think that's an important message to kind of hold on to when you get pushback or when anyone gets pushback. My question is, and it's almost kind of stemming off of Heather's concerns there, is it looks like there's some really great feedback from teachers and some really great feedback from students, so that's wonderful. Wondering if you're getting any pushback or if you're seeing different types of feedback from different generations of teachers or different generations of parents, and what that looks like, and if that looks any different. And if you are seeing that, how are you kind of navigating those conversations?
That's a good question, and I didn't ask, if you're a senior teacher on the survey for feedback. We didn't. I just want to say the resistance or the where I feel it's important for us to like lean into and listen is the mindset and the resistance is coming from a place of needing, to know more and or deep care and concern, sort of like Director Weems is saying, it scares me, right? Like, and that, I care deeply about us not doing this wrong. So I don't know if there's a generational, like I have young adults and they are very anti-AI. They're in their 20s, both of them. And it has to do a lot with the environmental aspect of it. It has to do with just the societal impact because they grew up with social media and they see the mental health implications that it's had, right? So I think we would maybe be surprised by the generational response because, I sort of am also like, it saves me. It has made my work and the capacity of what, Donna Roper can accomplish in a weekend, is because I have an AI assistant, sort of, right? Or 2 or 3 or however many I want, right?
Yeah.
I can go climb to the peak and do all these other things at the same. So, but I came from a generation of, you work hard, you do, it. So I think we would be surprised, I guess is what I'm saying
It
by,
might be interesting data to collect when you're doing feedback,
Yeah.
and maybe asking some of those questions
Yeah.
if someone wanted to share that,
Yeah.
just to kind of look if it's anonymous.
and again, the feedback that I feel we really need to listen to is the stuff that says, show me that it improves learning. Show me how it saves me time. Because it's true, the output evaluation process, the verification process, if you will, is very labor intensive, especially if you don't have the expertise, right? So that's where it can be a rabbit hole. Now I've just spent my whole day trying to do something, but I wasn't sure, so then I had to go, so.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, thank you for the excitement that you bring to this. And I see like your LinkedIn posts and then I get lost down that wormhole. So, yeah, one question is the singularity upon us? Just like if you had a give a quick overview, because I talked to friends in other districts and they're like, oh, we don't have anything of this sort. And it seems like we're ahead of the curve and then some. That seems exciting. Us as kind of a district, where you are pulling, because there's not really policy out there. We're all learning this together. Feel free to brag, but where you feel like we are at as a district, kind of compared to where other folks might be. And
I think part of it is because there is no leadership on it. Like we need regulation. I'm going to be honest. We need it for the safety of persons. But we don't have that. And then what translates is who's responsible, right? So, my brother's daughter just had a baby on December 18th, baby Ray, beta baby. I love her. Like, I care where we're headed, right? And I think if you're a person who has persons and you care, you're looking to this work to say, what do we need to do to make sure that human-centered skills and that this is not led by the technology, but led by humans with care. I don't know if you are familiar with the International Math Olympiad contest, right? It's a 6-question, they have thousands and thousands of hours that go into developing these unique math questions that very few people across the world can answer, right? Except for this one math professor at Carnegie Mellon who says he can answer 4 of them. But ChatGPT also could answer 4 of them, and he has decided, and he will say, you'll find him on YouTube saying, I've realized kindness and thoughtfulness are the more important skills here, you know? So empathy will be the number 1 skill that a scientist needs by 2030. I mean, it's like 7 or 6 right now, but it's going to be number 1. That's the projection, and I believe that, right? Because we are going to have lots of tools to help us. It doesn't mean as educators we can forget about the foundational work. Like, that's as important still. We still have to teach children how to read and write and think, right? But we also are going to have to teach them self-regulation, how to, empathy, compassion, kindness. Like, those are things that we're going to be finding are necessary. So it's the 4D framework that, if you remember back 2 years ago, Education in the Age of AI, Charles Fidel's book calls for those competencies. And honestly, I don't want to say we're ahead of everyone else. I really don't know that we are. We're in partnership with a lot of other districts who are, where we are, they maybe aren't talking about it up here as much, but I feel their instructional fleets on the ground are dealing with it. You can't not deal with it, right? Like, it's here.
I think to echo what Donna is saying, and maybe to answer your question a little bit, Zach, being a part of Mingaya's group, I think we're in the thick of it, and I think that we are leading because 742 is the one that helped start the Mingaya, the Leaders Summit 2 years ago. And being a part of that group for 3 years, the conversations, nobody's got it figured out, everybody's working on it together, but all of the concerns that have been brought forward tonight are part of the conversations that continue to happen on a monthly basis with leaders from all over the state of Minnesota. And you have policymakers, you have school board members from all over the state of Minnesota, teachers, higher ed. Coming from a higher ed background, I feel we are so far ahead of the conversations compared to where we're at my own institution. And so I think that we are right where we need to be, because change is hard and there's a lot to learn and there's not a lot regulating it. And so I think Donna's work and the district has really opened up a lot of people's eyes around the state. So I want to thank the district for that work.
You wrote some resolutions for the MSBA that Alan and I presented at the Delegate Assembly. And it's sort of like, let's get out there and create guidelines. And your resolutions, they passed. And we'll be promoting that in the future in our lobbying efforts at the state. There was one resolution that was kind of just barely passed, and that was the mention of changing standards. And that was, people got a little iffy about changing standards to match what AI can or cannot do. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, it passed, right?
It,
Okay.
By very few votes.
Yeah.
Yes, it did pass.
I think that's the more challenging, work is the what. Like, what is it we need to know and be able to do at every level and every, and I would say we need to, as quickly as we can, get interdisciplinary and cross grade level as quickly as we can. That is what we need to be doing at a state level, at a national level, in terms of the content standards. And that is a very, very, very big ask. But if we're going to reduce the content standards to like bundles of competencies and learning and allow for more opportunities to learn the important things, they have to be given in more than just math class or more than just reading, right? Like they have to be offered in many different ways across discipline. And so that's the ultimate vision, right, of where I think we will be someday. It's going to take time to get there. And I'm not making this, this probably isn't my idea. I'm sure I read it or heard it somewhere, right? It's somebody else has also probably had this very similar thought about how we need to move the standards. But it's very siloed because it's very content specific right now.
You mentioned that MSBA is going to be coming out with some policies. Have you seen them yet? Do you have any idea?
Well, I have been, I work in partnership with Gary Lee from MSBA a little bit, so we are talking quite a bit about various policy language that they're going to land on. So,
I'm sure we'll be seeing it in our committee before too long.
yeah. And, again, MSBA recommends policy, but you set the policy. So,
One thing that's always been kind of fascinating is detecting artificial intelligence when kids use it. Tell me a little more about that. You said that there's a well-attended presentation.
So I actually didn't go to his presentation, but he has his slide deck attached to the sessions catalog that I'm sure we could share. So if that would be okay, I could ask him if we could share that with you.
Yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
Listening to all of this makes me wonder, what do you need from us?
That's such a good question, and thank you for asking that. And I feel so well supported by the superintendents and my school board, you all, colleagues, because I'm probably an outlier, and so I think the support of just letting us run this, do the summits, do the work that we're doing, slowly but surely integrating it in with our teachers. And I think people need time. So, I would say as we are doing change management work, because that's what this is, we're evolving. And it takes reflective practice. And reflective practice takes time. It's really hard to reflect in 25, 30 minutes deeply to get a change to occur, right? So just understanding that when our professionals are asking for time to reflect and learn, and they're asking for cross-collaboration reflection time, like not just within their teams, not just at their schools, like those are hard things to do. But I would just say that in order for us to evolve, we have to have that important reflection time.
Thank you.
Okay, then we have Board of Education Standing Committee reports. I believe we just have one Board Development Policy Governance Committee Chair, Zach Dorholt.
The Board Policy and Development Committee met on December 17th and reviewed 4 district policies. Policy 101, 101.1, and 530 required only minor statute updates or no changes at all, and were recommended for the consent agenda. Policy 624, which is online instruction, was recommended for first reading due to a major statute change that requires significant policy change.
All right, thank you. Then we have future agenda items. The January 21st board meeting topics will include Changemaker Hub report out that Donna had mentioned to us, approval of the 2026-2027 school calendar, approval of tentative agreements, if any, mental health supports update, and some policy readings. At this time, does any board member wish to suggest a future agenda item? Okay, seeing no suggestions, I am looking for a motion to adjourn our regular board meeting so we can open up the work session.
So move.
I have a motion by Scott, a second by Natalie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, regular board meeting is adjourned at 8:20 PM. At that same time, we are opening up the Board of Education work session with just one topic tonight. We have proposed revised board policy 624, first reading. And welcome back, Katie Herbold, Executive Director of Innovation and Technologies.
Good evening again. You thought you were going to get rid of me, but I'm back again. Good evening, Chair Haas, Assistant Superintendent Harris, and board members. Because we were doing our update on our Central Minnesota Virtual Academy, we thought this was the perfect time to talk about Policy 624 about online instruction. Our old Policy 624 was based on the Minnesota statute called Online Learning Option Act. And that statute was originally approved in 2003. We've learned a little bit about online instruction since then, and Minnesota legislature repealed that statute in 2023 and replaced it with the Online Instruction Act. Now, our old policy was based on the old statute, and so this proposed new policy is a major rewrite because it is based on the new statute. So I want to give you just a little bit, a few highlights of this statute and some of the places that were like slightly changed from our old one. A lot of it is really just verbiage, but the general statement of policy is very similar. School districts shall not prohibit an enrolled student from applying to enroll in online instruction. This is kind of what we talked about in our presentation, where if a student wants to take an online class elsewhere, we cannot prohibit the student from doing that. And then the school district shall grant academic credit for completing the requirements of an online instruction course or program. One of the things that's changed are the definitions. Early definitions in the first policy were online learning student, provider. They were pretty basic definitions, and these are a lot more specific about what we see in our current online learning environment, blended instruction, digital instruction. Some of them have to do with that supplemental situation we talked about before, the enrolling district, online course syllabus, online instruction, the instructional site, teacher, student, supplemental online course, and supplemental online course provider. All of the statute and all the language about being supplementally online comes from this new statute in 2023. That was not part of the old statute. So that part is completely new, not only for our policy, but for that new Minnesota state statute. Couple of highlights with digital instruction. This is one of the things we didn't mention in our presentation, but due to this state statute, we cannot have more than 40 students enrolled in any course or in any section of a course. So all of our online classes are 40 students or less. You cannot put more than 40 in that section. So we could have 2 sections of Algebra 2, but each section has to be 40 or less. And that is so that we're not putting an incredible amount of students in a class because it's online and you don't need a physical space. Our teachers still need to be able to develop relationships with those students, so having those smaller numbers, not over 40, are helpful with that. Skipping ahead, this is one of the things we talked about too, is as an online course provider, we do have to support families with technology. And so what we do is we provide a Chromebook and a hotspot if internet access is necessary. We do help families if they qualify for educational tax credits, or if they qualify for educational benefits. We help them get connected to them with some of the local programs from Charter and other internet providers. But generally, when a student needs assistance, it's providing the device and the hotspot for internet access. One of the other things that we are required to do is to keep accurate records of daily attendance, and we talked through our process for that earlier. Some things with the supplemental online, again, this was added by the Minnesota State Legislature. We have to be have a current and approved application and be listed by the Minnesota Department of Ed as an approved provider, which our district is. We have that application, we renew it every year. We also must participate in continuous improvement cycles with MDE. So just like your brick and mortar buildings, we participate in a continuous improvement cycle, but we do this with the Department of Education with other online providers. So we're able to work with other districts or other online schools and work together. So that's part of the nice part about that continuous improvement cycle is we get ideas from each other, what's working, what's not. So that's the part, it's a little bit different about how we do continuous improvement online versus with our in-person schools. Couple of things just to be aware of. An enrolling district cannot restrict or prevent a student from applying to take a supplemental online course, but if a school wanted to not allow a student to go take one of our courses, they could request a course syllabus to review if it meets or exceeds their academic standards. So they can deny a student going and taking a course from us supplementally, but they have to prove that that course either doesn't meet our course doesn't meet their academic standards, and that can be reviewed by the Minnesota Department of Ed if we feel like that it does meet or exceed those standards. I think that was all I had for major highlights. So is there any part of the statute or the policy that you would like further clarification on? I'm mostly ready for it.
I think we're out of questions and comments.
That's why we did it at the same time.
But you've answered a lot tonight, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. That is everything on our work session agenda. So looking for a motion to adjourn our work session.
So move.
Again, motion by Scott, second by Natalie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Work session is adjourned at 8:27 PM. Thank you very much for watching. We will be back January 21st. Have a good night.
Wow.